Hey, I'm Quincy and I'm a radio personality, but just like you, I'm always wanting to make better health choices for myself and of course for my family. Now that's why I've teamed up with my friend Dr. Dean Tyndall and the fine folks of New Life Naturopathic, the creators of new-lifeweightloss.com, to bring you a podcast focused on giving you the information you need to make the best health decisions for you and your family. Now, that's going to be without sway from what mainstream medicine has become. Now, this podcast, Pursuit of New Life, we're going to release one each Friday. And we're going to focus on debunking the mainstream medicine myths now associated with naturopathic, holistic medicine, while giving you clear insight into ways you can make your health a lifestyle and not a jump from fad diet to fad diet. Experts in the fields of biochemistry, chiropractic, physiology, women's health, and much more will weigh in on a range of topics, all designed to open your eyes, expand your knowledge, and bring you to new life. Now be sure to subscribe to Pursuit of New Life on all the podcast platforms, and also follow us on YouTube at newlifenaturopathic.com, and be joining us every Friday for Pursuit of New Life.
Welcome in Pursuit of New Life. We are so glad that you've come alongside. Make sure you download and subscribe and all of that good stuff on YouTube at New Life Naturopathic, and of course on all of the podcast platforms at Pursuit of New Life. We'd love to have you share it with your friends and become part of this journey with us. We're covering a lot of great topics, trying to get you to a better part of new life, a better understanding of nutrition, and a holistic approach to all of this. It's not a diet or fad diet or any of that stuff. It's a lifestyle. And we're giving you some good information with our New Life Naturopathic team. So I'm going to bring them in right now. And we had women's health last week. So folks, strap in. It's time for men's health. So we're gonna get to that topic today. And Dr. Stubel will have plenty to chime in here in just a little bit. But as always, we're going to start with Dr. Tyndall. Let's talk early here about some of the common issues that men have to face or worry about, because a lot of times as guys, we don't want to think we have anything to worry about. So this will be a very enlightening topic for a lot of men.
Okay. Well, as far as our practice goes, about 65% of our practice is women and 35% of our practice is men, which, it's basically 50-50 ratio out there in the real world. So that kind of tells you one of the problems that we deal with as men tend to put off. As women, we talked last week about women tend to, keep track of their health because, the household kind of runs on them and stuff. Well, men tend to put their health off. They say, I'll be all right. It's just a little thing. It'll go away. I got to go away. And then, of course, usually how it works is we're in the office, we're working with a chiropractic and nutritionally, the wife is in there, and she goes, oh, by the way, my husband complains of X, Y, and Z.
So it doesn't even start with coming and ask for help. He's there for support and ends up getting ratted out. Okay.
Well, he gets ratted out. He's not even there. He's still at home, and the wives are going, my husband deals with this, and I have to listen to it every day. What do I do?
Oh.
And I said, here, I know it sounds funny, but first thing I tell them, I said, did they complain about their problem a lot? And of course, probably 90% do. And I said, I go, then you got him. And she goes, what do you mean? And I go home, tell him to shut the heck up. I don't want to hear it anymore. I told you
unless
what to do.
You go to New Life Naturopathic.
Yeah.
Don't want
so I told her,
anymore.
I don't hear it. So I tell him, go home, tell your husband to shut up. I don't want to hear it anymore. I've told you what to do. I've told you, go see Dr. Tyndall for this, this or that, and you don't want to do it. So I don't want you to hear you complain. And it's not being mean. What it is, it changes the dynamic, because what happens is some people like to have that sympathy. Petting them on the shoulder. Oh, I take care of you, because men like to be taken care of. And so when you kind of take that dynamic away, the man usually I said, then you just shut up. You just kind of ignore him. And about a half hour, he'll come walking in. What's the number? And I'll make an appointment. Or can you make an appointment for me? And of course, then they come in.
Usually it's to make appointment for me.
It's to make the appointment.
So what are some of the issues that we end up talking about once we get pulled into it?
Kind of men tend to be fairly cardiovascular, liver, diabetes, kidney, and then low testosterone issues, and then, in some low testosterone issues, of course, low T, but also the prostate issues that kind of go with it. So we deal with, kind of those are the main things that we deal with men. And so a lot of them, again, dietary, kind of like, for example, like about a month and a half ago, we started with a guy with stage 4 kidney failure.
Wow.
He's getting ready to go to dialysis, and of course, his wife brings him in. My husband, and so we put him on the dietary program. We actually put him on our vegan program or vegetarian program. I told him, you can't do any proteins right now. I said, you're going to go on the vegetarian program, and then we're going to do some supplements for targeting your kidneys. And we're waiting on labs. But the interesting thing is, what I thought was fascinating, because at first he was like scared to death. He looked at me like a deer caught in headlights. He goes, I got to do your vegetarian program. I go, yeah. I said, because here's why. And I explained the physiology behind it. And I said, and so what I thought was fascinating is he called back about 2 weeks later, and he said, I love the food. He goes,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was, because I was like, this, he's a firefighter, and, like, and so, but yeah, he loved and the interesting thing, after the first month, he took off 24 pounds. Wow. So, which has taken a lot of pressure off his knees, his back, and so hopefully, and pretty soon we're going to get some labs ordered to see where his kidney function is, but I'm going to suspect that it's improved, because we see a lot of these kidney problems. I'm going to suspect it's improved quite a bit already for him.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Stuber, we're talking about men today, but how does that impact the household, and what is it, the women's side, that you have to hear and deal with when us men don't take care of these problems? Or what is some of the common things that the wives are talking about when they come to see you?
From a woman's perspective, when women will start and they'll talk about themselves, but within the first 5 minutes, it diverts to their kids. Oh, and my husband, and da da da. Or when I make a recommendation, well, this is what you need to do for you, they'll say, oh, my husband won't do that. And I'm like, yes, he will. I can't tell you how many times in practice I've ambushed a husband. Like, the wife brings him in, wants him to come, and just bring him in, and men will sit there, and the wife will fill out the paperwork, and they don't even know. She's like, okay, here, sign this. And then they'll come in and sit down. And then it becomes apparent when they sit down that the appointment's for them and not for their wife. So then it's like, yeah, I mean, they'll sit there, but they're called on their problem. She's like, well, he says this and he says that, and he does this and he does that. I feel like two little kids, like they're tattling on each other. So, the biggest thing from a woman's standpoint is women, a lot of them worry. If you're in a husband and wife situation or a partnership arrangement or any, somebody you love and you care about, you are concerned for them. So if they start complaining about things or even just acting differently, if you have a 2-income household or just responsibility, I mean, everybody's going all out all the time nowadays. So if one of those people becomes incapacitated or isn't functioning optimally, it really throws things out of whack. And I know from listening to women, they are concerned. You got the blood pressure, the heart attack, stroke, cancer, the big ones. And they notice with time, again, there's testosterone issues. Women don't talk with me as much about that. They will bring their husband in to talk with me about that, but they present it as a mood, like he's acting differently. He doesn't touch me as much. They don't go into the sexual details, which, it's just part of the process, but then they really get to worrying. So of all the major diseases you have some graphics coming up, but the major diseases, most of them are preventable. Like 80% are the tragedies happen that could be prevented if men took better care of their health. And like Dr. Tyndall was saying, on the program, the food is so delicious that it's a great way to get nutrition. It tastes good and men just love it.
Yeah, and that is at new-life weightloss.com. That is the program you've heard us talk about. It is not a weight loss program. It is a shift in lifestyle, but it's called weight loss because that's what people are looking for. But it's not a fad diet. It's an opportunity to really shift your lifestyle. As you heard with Dr. Tyndall talking earlier about how it impacted that patient with the kidney failure and all of that stuff. We talked last week about the impact, women and all they have to deal with at home. But for men too, we always feel like as providers that, if we stop to do this and then the result is I have to take X amount of time off and things like that. Do you hear that as a concern too, Dr. Julie?
Oh, absolutely. A big issue with men is pride.
Well, true.
You have to get through the pride. Okay, well, yes, if you have to take time off work now and it's going to cost you a little bit of money now, but the alternative, if it's a heart attack or a stroke a year from now where you're disabled or you're dead, or you'd have to have open heart surgery or who knows what.
Right.
As they say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. But it's about quality of life. Who wants to just slide into this state of less than optimum health and disease and destruction and just live a bad quality of life? It makes you miserable. It makes your family miserable. While, you want to enjoy your loved ones as long as you possibly can. And it's just easy to do. Simple steps over time create very positive results that are life-changing. And nothing makes women happier than when the people we love are happy.
And they listen.
Take care of them and they're doing great and they're living their best life. We don't ask for much more than that, from my experience. Women will come and smile ear to ear when, oh, my husband's blood pressure's dropped 20 points, or, oh, my husband lost 30 pounds. You won't hear it out of his mouth, but you will hear it out of her mouth. Because if things are going bad, you'll hear it from her. You won't hear it from him. He'll just kind of grouch around.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the big point I'd like to get to all men is that it matters. Your stubbornness, your pride, your ego, if it's preventing you from making some simple changes, please stop it, because you're very important. Your family needs you, and you just don't have to live the way you're living.
Yeah. She was so nice. She said, please stop it and everything.
There you go.
It's really nice. So, Dr. Tyndall, do you agree with that it is pride most of the time, or concern over finances or taking time off that prevents a man from coming in the first place?
Yep, part of it is, and part of it is men are taught to be stoic.
Was that old Home Improvement show, Tim Allen?
Yeah, Tim Allen. Yeah. Yeah, they're meant to be stoic. And here's what I kind of tell a lot of men. I said, I didn't think a pickup truck would ever be $70,000, but I tell men all the time. I said, you call and buy yourself a $70,000 pickup truck. I said, do you practice maintenance on it? Do you take care of it? And they're like, oh yeah, I spent $70,000 on that truck trouble. I'm like, yeah. So then, what's the most important part of the truck? And they're like, I go, the guy who's driving it and paying for it. So you need to take care. You need to take care of that. I said, you wouldn't do to your body what you're doing to your truck. You wouldn't put sugar in the gas tank, would you? Well, no. And I said, would you put the wrong oil in? Well, no. Would you do the wrong gas? Well, no. I said, so same thing goes with your body. Your body, if you put the right stuff, and that's kind of, again, backward eating program, is just teaching people to go back. We always said it before, for us to go forward in healthcare, we're going to have to go backwards in what we used to do. And that means going back, eating single ingredient foods, making our foods at home, eating at home. And everybody goes, oh, a lot of people think it's inconvenient, but it's actually more convenient. It's healthier. You feel better. I'm chatting with my dad here the other day. He's 89 years old. He'll be 90. Wow. He'll be 90 in June.
Man.
And still farming, still doing stuff. And we were talking about, health here the other day, and he's having a few health issues. Not real major. He's on a drug for his prostate that he wants to get off of, and he's on a drug for gout. And I told him, I said, well, Dad, we'll do some alternatives, because he's starting to have some side effects of it. And because the doctors told him these were safe. Oh, there's no problems with them. And then on his own accord, he went in and looked them up on drugs.com and started reading the side effects. He goes, well, that's why I'm having some of these symptoms of, and I go, yeah, Dad, I've told you that. And he goes, family, they don't listen.
Right.
So
that's right.
So it's, he calls me up. He goes, what do I need to do? He say, we're going to get you on a couple supplements, Dad, for your prostate and your gout. And I said, and he eats really well. And, he cooks at home. We grew up on a farm in Iowa, so we always had a garden out back, and, we always ate healthy because you're in the middle of nowhere. There's not McDonald's, fast food places and things like that. So, we were never raised that way, and we didn't do that. Even if you went to a local cafe, they still cooked everything from scratch. So, for me, it was easy to kind of live this lifestyle that I live. And but it's made a big difference with myself, my dad. I'm 59 and I don't take any drugs, and I'm working on a house I'm remodeling. I just the other day I was there by myself, and I was running lumber up to the 4th floor, and I did it probably about 30 times.
Yeah.
So I tell men, what you want to do is it's about having longevity, health, and enjoying that life, and enjoying your, because you're working. It's the same kind of thing with women, but for more for men. Because women look forward to the next stage. Okay. Women like it's like a good friend of mine, he was sitting in his office. He's all kind of bummed out. I'm like, what's the matter, man? He goes, I just got my kids. I got my last kid ready to graduate, and I'm ready to kind of take a break. And my wife came in the other day and she says, I can't wait to have grandbabies. And he was like defeated. He was like, I just want a little break. I don't want to pull the, I said, did you talk to your wife about, talk to your wife about, he goes, yeah, we're going to talk about it and stuff. I said, that's good. Because he felt like, okay, now I got grandkids I got to support, take care of. And, he wasn't going to get that break.
Well, those are the kind of things that men, once they get the conversation going, they don't care to talk about those things because they can then provide and help with those things. But these health issues that we're talking about are a little harder to talk about sometimes, especially when it comes to one of the things you mentioned a little earlier, Dr. Stuber, and then you touched on it earlier, Dr. Tyndall, and that's testosterone. And we have this misrepresentation that it only impacts one thing in our life, but there's actually a lot more to it, especially as you just talked about different stages, different ages. There's different parts of it for us that the production changes and things like that. So why don't you start diving into that subject? Because I know there's probably a lot of men got their notepad out ready to start, taking questions on that.
Yeah. So, testosterone is a big thing. A lot of weightlifters use, external, or I call it exogenous or external. You're taking, I'm just talking about endogenous, which is hormones you take, that your body makes, and exogenous, which is that you're bringing in from the outside in. And there's a big difference on how your body responds to them. So, like a lot of your bodybuilders who take external hormones, build up and get all beefy. The problem is it leads to a lot of unhealthy situations and health problems, cancers and things like that, heart disease, stuff like that. So, but yeah, men, the thing with testosterone is as we get older, we'll be showing a graphic here, but as you get older, your testosterone, with this graphic. So basically 1 out of 4 men over the age of 30 have low testosterone, and low testosterone would be anything less. You want to kind of range to 700 to 900, but optimal is about 800. So when you start getting less than 700, you're starting to get the low testosterone. The problem we have in healthcare profession, again, is the range for testosterone on labs is, I believe it's 200, depends on lab, but most of it's 250 to low to 900 is the high. So the problem you have, if you're under that 700 mark, again, optimal is 800, but you start getting under that 700 mark, you're low testosterone. Well, you don't get any intervention, and you don't get medical profession doesn't even look at you or say anything that you have low T until you get under 250, and it has to be 2 tests in a row. So if you're, one time you're 249, and the next time they check it, you're 251, well, then you're not low T. Well, you are.
Wow.
And kind of like with women with a thyroid problem, men with testosterone, I call it, you get stuck in no man's land. And the other problem with men is only 1 in 20 men will display noticeable symptoms. And most of them will, it's a symptom they don't want to talk about it. Usually it's, they don't have performance in the bedroom,
Right.
They can't get an erection, or they can't hold an erection. And then of course that's something you don't want to talk about, because I'm supposed to be a man. I'm supposed to be able to perform. So it gets kind of hidden away, and nobody wants to talk about it. So it gets untreated and looked at. And so as you can see, as when we're younger, when we're 20, we're young and dumb and running around. So we have a lot of testosterone. And as we get older, it naturally kind of comes down because of other health issues that we're developing. But what we're starting to see nowadays, unfortunately, is that you're starting to see a shift of this graph here. You're starting to seeing it start to shift to the left. So now we're starting to see men say the levels of testosterone at your 40, we're starting to see at 30, and at 50, at 40. And a big part of that is back to diet.
So some of these problems are showing up sooner, is what you're saying.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Because that's why, if you look around, if you go back to when we were younger, Quincy, there was a lot of fat people, a lot of kids that were overweight. Nowadays, you look at a lot of these young men, they're overweight. They already have man boobs that they're supposed to be toned and fit, and they're not. They have the flabby chest, the man boobs. And a big part of that is diet, because what they're doing is they're eating too many simple carbohydrates, breads, cake, cookies, pastas, sugars, high fructose corn syrup, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And what it does is when your insulin levels go up, your testosterone level bottoms out.
Mm-hmm.
And so all your hormones play together in a different ratio. So the more breads, cake, cookies, candies, pasta, sugar, all these things that you put in, that testosterone keeps getting suppressed.
Yeah.
And so that's why you're seeing more and more, issues with testosterone. Of course, when you listen to the radio ads, hey, come to our clinic.
All the different ads about the one part of this, though, too. Yeah. And if you're listening on podcast and you're wondering what graphs and graphics we're talking about, make sure you're going over to YouTube and subscribing to the New Life Naturopathic YouTube channel. That's where these will release on the video as well, so you can see what we're talking about as you listen. But, there's more to testosterone than just the sex drive and just what happens in the bedroom. And there's a lot of areas that it impacts a man. But, as you talked about earlier, sometimes there's not a lot of symptoms that show. So as we take a look at this, Dr. Tyndall, what are some things that men can be thinking about or looking at that says, as their age increases, to say, okay, maybe I do need to get tested and see what this is about or why this is happening?
Your main thing that I tell a lot of men to look at is actually vitality and stamina.
Mm.
Okay, so if you're at the end of the day, you're like, oh, I'm exhausted, I can't go, I'm up. You don't have any stamina or vitality left, or you look at things that you used to enjoy. Like I used to, if I like to go hunting, or I want to go fishing, or I want to do, those things that, if I just want to go outside, or I want to go work on my car. And if you kind of get up in the day and you kind of notice that, I don't really want to, I don't feel like it today. I don't want to go fishing today. Hey, your buddy calls you up, hey, go, I don't feel like it. That's some of the first signs of your lower testosterone, because you're not going to see it like with bone mass being lost. And a lot of these things we just attribute it. It's you're just getting older. So
right.
And then of course men get past a certain age of, like I said, some of these things you're just not going to see. And so that's why these kind of get overlooked, because production of red blood cells and producing feelings and aids in memory, and men don't really give a crap about their facial hair, body hair, or their skin. We're like, oh yeah, I got rough, tough skin. That means I'm a man. So those are things that we tend to overlook. But one of the big first signs I tell them to look for is that loss of vitality and vigor, that zest for life.
Yeah. Well, so let's take another look here too. We talk about this deficiency and what it could look like. You were just talking about some of them. So let's take a look at this as well. Depression can come with that, low self-esteem, some of these things that we're talking about when testosterone is being deficient.
Yeah, and then, like, poor concentration. You hear men like, I can't remember stuff as well, or forget stuff. Of course, decrease in the muscle tone. And one of the big areas that you'll see it is In low testosterone, you'll start to see that belly fat also, like especially in the front. Of course, your loss of libido. Men, not so much as hot flashes, maybe more heart palpitations. Of course, decreased body hair, they're going bald. And then, of course, another area that they see is, sex drive. And then kind of like what happened, like Julie was talking about, because they don't have that sex drive. They don't have kind of that desire, that desire for life. They don't, they tend to start to kind of ignore the wife. They don't, because they don't go up in her and they don't start doing the foreplay. They don't start kissing on her and loving on her. They're like, just like, they get like an old dog, leave me alone on the porch.
Well, looking at this list, some of these things, though, they don't all point to testosterone. So how do we differentiate? Like, I guess we look at what we talked about earlier, the age, right? Like as we get to a certain age, we know that it's this that's impacting concentration.
Well, that's where we come in. You want to have doctors who know what they're doing with this stuff. And that's a key thing about this stuff is, everybody thinks I can go to Dr. Google and I can research this stuff. Nutrition is very, very complicated. I've been doing it for 27 years and still learning. Dr. Stuber, she's been under the, she's been doing, chiropractic and acupuncture and stuff like that for a long time. She's been under, last year, just intense training on nutrition, and we're just kind of scratching the surface.
Yeah.
And so when people try to go out there and do this stuff themselves, it gets them messed up. And the other problem that you have now is, again, those commercials on the radio and that TV. Hey man, come in and get your testosterone shot. So here's the problem with the testosterone shot is, yes, it brings your testosterone levels up, but it's you have a feedback mechanism in your system. So if I put in an external hormone, I don't care what hormone it is, if I put that in my body, so if I'm a man and I put testosterone into my body, then I have feedback mechanisms from my hypothalamus, pituitary, down to my testes to make testosterone, adrenal glands to make DHEA. Well, if my body says I have the appropriate, because I'm taking external testosterone, my body says, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to produce anything. So your production system, the hormonal production system, gets turned off.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem and the other problem with hormones is they don't know the actual dosage, so you tend to overdose with these. And what happens, your body becomes, if you've heard of insulin sensitivity or intolerance, same thing happens with these hormones. So what happens when you take external hormones for a while, your body becomes, it starts to not tolerate it, and then receptor sites don't respond to it. So what happens over time is your dosage starts to creep up, and becomes less effective. And then you get to a point that you, of course, and it's synthetic hormone, so you end up increased risk of cardiovascular disease, prostate cancer, testicular cancer, all these other things. So now, we get these guys that come in, and it's a pain to straighten them out because their natural system has been shut down for months or even years. So now we have to rehab that system, get it back up, and it's real difficult. It's a lot of stuff you have to look in. So yeah, we do testing. So we look at, your free testosterone, total testosterone. We look at those ratios and we're looking at those numbers. And then, so a lot of times if they're not coming up with like some of the stuff with some of the herbs and nutrition that we use, then we have to start delving into, do we have to fix the hypothalamus? Do we have to fix the pituitary? Do we have to fix the adrenal glands to get these numbers back up to where they're supposed to be?
Wow. Well, I know I learned something today. There's a lot more to it than we know. And I think, a program like this, that we get the opportunity to share this message and share this opportunity to learn some knowledge that isn't just the Dr. Google stuff, that we get a little deeper into it. We encourage you to go to the website and take a look, newlifenaturopathic.com, a lot of information there. And then also, of course, reach out to the team. We talked earlier or at least the YouTube viewers got to see down at the bottom. There's the email address for asking questions. We love every now and then we'll do one of those question and answer type episodes so that you can see a little more in depth if you need us to address a certain question, because we're going a pretty good overview when we get these episodes and these opportunities to talk with Dr. Tyndall and his team. And Dr. Stuber, thank you so much for being part of today. We had the women's health last week and men's health this week. And then make sure you're staying with us. We've got some other information coming up that'll be very important. That's some new information about DNA testing. That'll be a good episode to be a part of as well. If you missed any episodes, of course, they're all available on the podcast platforms. All of the YouTube videos are there at New Life Naturopathic. When you go check that out, we encourage you to subscribe. So lots of different ways to stay connected with our New Life team, especially by listening, subscribing, downloading, all of that good stuff here at Pursuit of New Life. We will see you next time.
Take care, Footsie.